What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler coming back at you with another great video today. Another one of our summer series, because summer is about here. It is here, whatever the official day is. I don't know. It's hot. With hot typically comes grass. Grass fishing can be intimidating for some if you're not used to it. Others that are familiar, it is the way to fish. Great way to fish, okay? Big fish hang out in grass, and there are a plethora of ways to approach grass. And there's all different kinds of grass, so we're going to talk about some of that. But first, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you like this kind of content, we're helping you out, hit that subscribe button. When we get to 4,000, we will be giving away a Flag 170. Okay, they're very hard to get. They are a great swim bait slash glide bait slash chopper. You can do so much with them. Grass fishing, let's start with more sparse grass. Something you might find on some flats, or maybe it's just not real thick. A great way to approach grass is typically with a reaction bait. Now, when we have the more sparse stuff, a great bait to use is a chatterbait. The chatterbait rips out of grass really, really well. This is kind of a cool color too. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's called smallmouth magic. That is a jackhammer. Other ways to fish in that sparse stuff would be something like a red-eye shad or a LV 500, like so. This is a gold, what's it called? Gold blackback. You can always get into the Red Craw stuff. This is a Spro. This one's called Western Craw. Those kinds of things you're going to pick based on your area, your body of water. Let's keep in mind that the bait fish also will use grass to kind of hide in. So sometimes bait fish, shad type patterns. Bluegill can also be very good if you have a high ratio of bluegill eaters in your lake. That can be a great way to fish that sparse stuff. Now, some other things you may want to try or you can use. Square bills work pretty good in sparse grass. You can rip them out, rip them through, just like you can the LV rattle type bait or the chatterbait. And oftentimes it's those ripping them free is when we get bit. Now, you can fish these with slower presentations, things like a Senko, and you can catch fish. However, I just find that to be a very slow way to cover water, and I much prefer to cover water faster. Now, one other way I might do that is with a walking bait. And we've been talking a lot about walking baits. Hey, it's summertime, top water time. How can you not talk about walking baits? That's a Teckle, that's a Berkeley cane walker. There's the shower blow. There's the Zara spook. There's all kinds of different walking baits you can use. I'm not particular to anyone. I probably use the cane walker the most. It's just me and the cane walker are getting like this. You can also throw a buzz bait around that sparse grass. However, I do like to throw the buzz bait more around things like, here's a couple of my buzz baits rigged here on the table. I do like throwing those more around edges of thicker grass. It has the ability with the noise and the chugging coming across the water to call fish from a distance. So if they're not necessarily right there, it can pull the fish to it. And buzz baits are a fun way to catch fish when you're just reeling that thing across the top of the water and just kaboom, they blow up on it. Another one would be the Berkeley Chopo or the River to Sea Whopper Plopper, okay? Those can be good. They don't do real well if you have any grass to the surface, or if you have floating grass, you're much better off using a buzz bait in that situation. Due to the treble hooks, they're going to grab it, and then it fouls the bait and you wasted a cast. So just choose your bait for the conditions you're in. Now, moving to grass that is a little thicker, and here's where it gets real fun, because these are the harder places to get to catch the fish. Now, one of the ways I like to approach this, and this is thicker grass, folks. that's matted on the surface. There's a few ways you can approach it. Now, one of my favorites is going to be the frog. Okay, and I like the popping frog. If it's too thick, the popping frog doesn't work really well, and you might need to go to a walking frog, which I know I had some here. And for those of you that are not new to the channel, you know I really like the Swamp Lord, and I like this bone. The bone color just offers more, something different, because so many brands, their frogs are more white. This bone just seems to get bit much better than for me, but a walking type frog on the heavy matted stuff. Okay, so the pointed type of face there, not the popping type of face. And the reason I like to start with the frog is because I can cover water, and when I get in an area where I start getting bit, that's a good time that I might pull out the punch rod. And then we're going to vary from a 3/4 ounce up to a 2 ounce tungsten weight peg to get through these mats, depending on how thick they are. Now, typically when you punch through, you want to kind of yo-yo your bait. I'm not a active yo-yo. I kind of pick it up, let it sit back down. I'll let it sit for a second, pick it up. And then before I take it out of the water, I like to bring it up to where I feel the bottom of the grass is, because most of the time that grass mats up, and then there will be caverns underneath. Caverns, openings. That's the best kind of grass to find the fish in. And I like to pull it up to the bottom of that grass and just shake it a little bit. Okay, just give it a little shake. Reason being is oftentimes you got crawdads living on the bottom of that grass mat. And that's oftentimes why those fish are hanging out in those areas, is to eat the crawdad. All right, another secret way, less talked about way to get bites around these big heavy matted grass is, and this isn't talked about, so don't go sharing it with people who aren't on the channel. This is for my channel peeps only, all right? So hit that subscribe button down there. But a great way to approach these grass fish that may surprise you is with a depths heavyweight Sakamata shad. Okay, these are weighted, and they're also easier to get. They're just not as popular. They're a little bit more specialized and for special circumstances. Grass is one of those special circumstances. This is a heavily salted weighted bait. So think of it like a Senko. You still fish it weightless, but when you get around holes and stuff, you can stop your retrieve, let that bait, and it just does like a fluke. We'll go down into these holes. It works great along edges of grass, and it's something they're not seeing a lot. And again, bait fish around grass, whether it be bluegill, shad, gizzard shad, whatever your bait fish may be, this is a great trigger to catch some of those bigger fish around grass, and a way that maybe not a lot of people are doing in your area. So it's a great way to catch some extra fish or give them something that they're not seeing all the time. Now, anytime in the summer you get around an area where you've caught multiple fish, that's a good opportunity to slow down and maybe try some different things. Maybe that's when you start throwing that Senko. Maybe you try some other weedless baits. To catch some extra fish, maybe you find the bait that they're really keyed on, and you can always throw a swim bait. Just a weedless swim bait instead of something with a treble hook hanging off of it, like a glide bait. Now, I love throwing glide baits, and if you've been around the channel long enough, you know that, but it doesn't work really well in grass with those treble hooks. It just tends to grab onto stuff, and once you have something hanging off of your bait that's not supposed to be there, it really kind of closes the window down on the opportunity to get bit. It's just not natural, okay? You don't see bait fish swimming around with grass hanging off of them. So it's a good time to throw a flashy swimmer, which is the hook with the little blade on the bottom. It's weedless. You can put just about any swim bait on you want, just adjust your hook size to the bait. I love throwing these in shallow areas, back in tules, back in reed clumps, those kinds of things, and slow swimming them out. It's more cover oriented, but it comes through grass really well. It comes through pretty much everything really well. I generally like to use some of the lighter weights on these rather than going to the heavier ones. One, because if I'm throwing back into stuff, it's shallower, and two, because I want to keep it up. Okay, now most of the time, this is when I'm going to start considering going to braid. And a lot of this stuff we're talking about, I'm throwing on braid, with the exception of the Sakamata shad. I'm still going to go with fluorocarbon. Frog, 65-pound braid. The rattle trap, LV, 20 to 30-pound braid. And typically I'll put a short mono leader, like 18 inches, not much, just a little bit of a shock absorber and abrasion resistance if you're down around rocks, because you never know when you may be hitting some rocks, and rocks and braid don't mix really well. The buzz bait, I'll throw either way, but typically I prefer that 30-pound braid. I like 30-pound for a lot of things. The chatterbait, the swim jig, it's plenty strong enough, and it just casts so much better than the 65. Those are my suggestions for grass. I really like the thicker stuff, but oftentimes, typically low light, that sparse vegetation stuff generally is a good area at lower light to find those fish where they're roaming. And you can catch a lot of fish with things like the chatterbait, the swim jig, and the LV. All right, I'm Sean, the Average Angler. We'll see you on the next one.